Good morning, everybody. Well, I'd say that pattern hit on target, right where it was supposed to. I was mentioning to Dan last night, it's interesting how news comes out where patterns are setting up at times as if it was orchestrated. Sometimes I think it might be when you have the government coming out with certain news, but of course, earnings reports, we got this rally into converging moving averages on the NASDAQ futures, 20, 50. Look to the left, it was right into that resistance area, those little double pivot highs there that we talked about yesterday, where it got up to. And then look what we have here. You can call it a head and shoulders top, call it an upside shakeout. You can just call it, looks like it's going down. And down to where? Well, that's the next level. Right? We just simply pull that down to there and say, well, as long as it doesn't get back up above here, odds are it's going down there. So we've got a sell set up on the daily time frame. We've got what looks like could become a topping tail on the weekly time frame. And what does that lead to? Right? Every pattern leads to a thought. Patterns create thoughts. Now, the thoughts are, should this follow through, it could get nasty ugly. Right? And maybe better to looking at the cues with this, but let's just continue it here. So a couple of things that happen, right? Yes, it can go sideways, right? Jiggle around there. Ideally, it's going to go down here and it's going to break through this low, right there. And potentially, just because this is a nasty move to the downside, right? So while we got the internals down here saying, hey, this thing's going to bounce, and it did exactly that. And we now want to see this as it goes down, break these lows greater than 100% retracement. However, we say, well, okay, does it just marginally break the lows? I think not. I think because of the way it went down and we got this bottoming tail bar, it could be a measured move, which could result in a move down here. That'll be ugly. So we're just playing out scenarios here, pointing out scenarios, and then every day we add a new bar and we measure the depth of retracement or the lack thereof. Is it a topping tail? Is it a bottoming tail? Is it a gap reversal? So on and so forth. So right now, we had this big move. One of the things I said is don't expect this to be over. Right? When the internals hit down here, and we had the rally up into resistance and we got the reversal, and this should keep going down. Dan will get onto YouTube the questions to individual stocks. All right. So let's look at the cues. Now, let's call it 358. Would you use weekly chart if considering a measured move? That's exactly what I was doing, Robert. I was looking at the weekly chart. Now the futures are 24 hours. We got a different picture on the cues here. And now 358, it's gapping way down here under, which is creating a void up above. 358. Right, it's gapping down here. So it's got a void below. It probably 358. This little area right there is what I would focus on, that right in the middle of that bar there, to where it hangs around. So the first few minutes might be a little, we'll see, erratic because of the size of the gap. It's gapping under those bars. And of course, at the end this week, since this isn't 24 hours, this bar is still a large green bar. But if this continues lower into tomorrow, this is going to be a topping tail bar, and then the futures are going to look something like what the futures look like. And then, what I mentioned in the green room, a couple of weeks ago, potential target down here, even though we're looking to get the bounce. Where did my internals chart go? Behind here. Here we go. Right. And if you remember, I said this getting up near the zero line is where we would look for a turn. And it got above the zero line yesterday as this moved up. And I said 4,600 somewhere in here would be, for SPX would be about where it could go. I said if it went up to 4,700, that begins to negate all of this. Now the Qs have been weaker all along. So as we look at SPX, and we'll see how far this comes. Well, we got to go to SPY, I guess, to see where this is at. 451, gapping well below down there. So we're going to get a gap down. We'll see how this looks. And I don't know, the Qs are a pattern that seems clearer to me as far as the downside. And certainly could go down there. I don't know how much further down this will go. I don't even like thinking what I'm thinking, to tell you the truth, as to could this turn into, eventually be like a head and shoulders top. And that's just too far out there, but just kind of thinking along those lines and kind of measurements, I guess, whatever. Putting it down around 400 as a downside target, but we'll see how that all plays out. But these patterns, as you measure them out, it's about as esoteric as I get. I've seen it work in the past, measuring this kind of stuff, giving a downside target, but it always lines up with areas of support. And Amazon will come and deliver good news. Don't count on it. Even in a situation like this, Reagan, even if the news is good, market can go down anyway, because that's the mode that it's in. And one stock isn't going to lift the market all by itself. All right, so we'll see how this plays out today. You can see where it's at. It's going to gap down. That opens up the potential for an attempt to try and push back up again. We'll see how that all goes. And 450, 451, right there on that little shelf. So maybe the possibility to try and regain its footing. It's a pretty sizable gap, so seems unlikely. All right. And we looked at the futures. There's the turn there. We don't need the internals. Russell, what does it mean, the breadth sentiment, not alignment, extremes targeted? They have to be extremes to give a signal. Right? So we had the signal down here. They were both at extremes that said, look for it to bounce. Now, what happens is that we're not going to get a sell signal, meaning breadth is not going to go up here. And sentiment is not going to go up there, and breadth is not going to go up there. That's why I said, look for the zero line, the area of the zero line, to be where the market turns back down again. Okay. And it got a little above. That's why I always use the term area. It's not an exact point. Dan's telling me he lost his internet. His computer's on because it's on the battery backup. Let me tell him, you got to plug the modem into the battery backup. So I told him how to set that up. One second. Yeah. I guess it's besides the market's a good thing for everybody to do. You get these battery backups. I've got a couple of them, you know, all the screens, so on and so forth. But the thing to do is to get, they have these a tower type of surge protector. I like them better than the flat ones. And you can have like 12 or 16 different outlets on there. But so your battery backup has like, you know, regular plugins, and it's got one that plugs into the battery. Right? So the thing to do so that you get your internet modem and your whether your laptop, your computer, your screens, you plug your peripherals, whatever, into the surge protector. You plug the surge protector into the back of the battery backup that sends the battery power to everything else. So what Dan did now is he plugged his computer into there, but he didn't plug his modem into there. So, you know, a little flow of where the power flows makes a big difference. Right? You can't do much with the computer without the internet. All right, let's keep going here. All right, so Russell futures down at 220,000. Okay, so at least a whole number, but you can see the sell set up there. This actually may get hurt the least since it went down a lot, but there's nothing underneath it. I think ultimately it's going to get hurt. Yep, your cell phone works as a backup, Steve. Absolutely. You just turn on that hotspot and, you know, just to close positions. Bitcoin going down, looking for 30,000 eventually. Oil hit that 90 bucks or just barely. So what that tells us, remember yesterday and the day before, I said, look at what's happening here. I said, look at the patterns, how the bars are opening and closing at the extremes. I said, look at the tails now. Things are starting to change. That looks like a last gasp up to the whole number. And down it came. So we'll see. It's still in an uptrend. But it's little tells, so to speak, of tails beginning to show up. You should pay attention to that. And the Dow, well, making the turn. It's been the strongest. It got through the 50. It closed up there. Man, I wish this was gapping down under that. Well, I guess it can't 24 hours, but let's see where the diamonds are. We usually don't look at the diamonds. Where are they? They don't trade as actively. Let's call it 350, 4.5. No, in the middle of the bar. I mean, when you get a move up like this and a green bar that closes relatively close to the high and it gaps underneath it, that is like a death hit. You know, put a fork in it, it's done type of situation. So it hasn't broken through yesterday's low yet. Suspect that'll happen, but this may get damaged the least. And transports actually did quite nicely, but kind of bringing up the rear, and we'll see what that does. Volatility index, let's go to the VIX, that started turning up. So everything's lined up. Internals are lined up. Futures are lined up. And now we just see how low it's going to go. Are you with us, Dan?
Yes, I texted you.
Maybe my thing on here. Here's music.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I said it a second ago. All right, 1 second. Just putting an alarm on Cisco here. All right. So we have very light inventory, so we're not getting hurt by this. We did a fantastic job trading the turn starting Monday and last Friday, selling into strength, closing the short puts into strength. So we're in good shape. Yeah, I posted Cisco as a long, and I like the fact that it's down a little bit. Was showing relative strength for some reason. Pre-market it was up. But if it now takes out yesterday's high, that's a beautiful turn. And this is one of those catch-up type of trades. Sienna, we're still in. I can't tell where it's gapping. Facebook just getting killed here. Do you remember I said yesterday morning? I said, I don't care if this thing opens up, down, or sideways. I had a bearish bias because that's just my textbook go-to bias when something has a huge run into earnings. I guess my bias is to fade it the next day. But now, obviously, the gap is, I've never seen a big, well-known top 10 stock get so wrecked before on earnings. I mean, look at this. Look at this. If I were to said yesterday, you know, hey, Greg, let's sell 260 puts, or maybe even 280, you know, we'd be saying, well, there's no way it's going there. Guess what? It is. So I have a bullish bias to sell put spreads. These you know, just like the calls yesterday in Google were jacked to the upside because the gap was excessive. These puts are going to be so jacked, not as much as yesterday because of the volatility crush, but they're still going to be jacked. So this is a definite put spread idea. And if you're coming in late, I gave a big list here of put and call spread watches. Yeah, I was telling Greg last night also that yesterday morning they had this hedge fund woman on CNBC who I've seen before and I respect her. She seems intelligent. And she said, oh, I got out of Google before the earnings. And Maria said, oh, don't you feel bad? She said, yeah, of course, but I don't feel bad because I put all those dollars into Facebook. Man, oh man, can you imagine how that woman feels today? She gave up the gap, the $3,050, and now she's sitting in a 23% loss. That hurts. All right, so our positions are fine. See, like we're in Papa Mike, it's only down 30 cents. We're in Wells Fargo, it's only down 2 cents. Papa Mike, we're in Home Depot, but in trail mode, and it still has a gap. None of my alarms went off, actually. We're in Sienna, I mentioned, APA. So, Greg, I posted APA as a 1, 2, 3, and I like the fact that it's gapping down. But with your cautionary, you know, comment about the, you know, oil, but you know, we're pattern traders. This pattern looks fantastic.
Well, then it'll follow through.
Yeah.
Or not.
So RGS, a little bottoming pattern here, gap breakout, so 30-minute high. That's you know, look at the 20 MA slowing. We had we failed to make a lower low. So this is a perfect bottoming pattern. November Sierra had earnings, and I know it's up a couple bars on the daily, but it's a closing breakout. Look at the weekly, look at the monthly. So I like this little guy. Ton of earnings today. Cisco, we mentioned. Greg mentioned UNH yesterday in MT Live. Remember? Or in the green room for sure. And you know, too bad we didn't get on it until the close. Look at that big old gap to 496. And that's a beautiful continuation pattern. We love these. That's right exactly out of what we teach. It had 100% retracement to resistance, but red bar traded under power bar's low, went above the red bar and a price would. That's what we do. So that would have been a put spread idea, detective, but the gap's too big, so I didn't even list it. GME was up, but nah, that's still garbage. All right, so on the back of Facebook's disaster, these other social media things are getting whacked. Pins, that's a nasty downtrend right there. Look at that, lower lows, lower highs, green bars ignored, railroad track. That's in pain. Twitter was a sell setup. That's a call spread idea. Snap, sell setup in a downtrend. That one, the gap's too big. Cuero is a nice call spread idea. Over yesterday's high. I was going to post this one officially, but the spreads were pretty bad. But let's keep an eye on Cuervo here. Here, I'll put them right here. So I got Facebook on my other computer. Bottom right, BDX, I like a lot. Made the turn on support and the 5,200, gapping up 262.50. I would have preferred a gap just to 260. You know, the bigger the gap, that kind of messes up my reward to risk. But and then Dexter, this would be an absolute no-brainer. Put spread 2, 5-minute high. Let's see, look, that print just took it up another $1.50. A Nicker, I don't see a print here, but if it really is 26.50, that's a call spread idea. DXC, put spread idea. So Tish, under yesterday's low, call spread idea. There's MXL, there's nothing, deleting you. AMSC, bottoming pattern, can't see where you're gapping, you're gone. Spotify getting whacked. That was a sell setup. Wow, look at the volume on that sell setup. That's some pain right there. Qualcomm, call spread candidate. Gapping under yesterday's low. FDN 181. Yeah, that's a stop for now. We'll come back to it, Debbie, in 30 minutes. Take a look at it. But I don't know if you were here, but we talked about this yesterday into the close, and I said, hey, Greg, shouldn't we be tightening our stop? And he said, yeah. And he said, maybe, 5-minute low today, but that didn't contemplate an $8 gap down. So now we got to have a different game plan. But yeah, we want to get out of that on a bounce of some sort. TMUS, gap's too big, but that would have been in a put spread idea. ATN, can't tell where it's gapping, but over yesterday's high, it has a void. TTAC, nothing. HI, another turn, can't tell where it's gapping, but put spread idea, yesterday's high. Put these in the other computer. Ryan, put spread idea. Detective, you're going to be busy this morning. I mean, Dexter. Honeywell gapping down at 200. It's a bearish gap, but I don't know what to do with it. McKesson over yesterday's high. Looks great. Can't tell where it's gapping, but yesterday's high. Looks great. All-time highs. Inverse heading shoulders. In fact, let me set an alarm on this one. It looks so good. I'm going to set it at 260. Holex. I like that it's gapping down 60 cents. So over yesterday's high. Has a price void. I'm going to set an alarm. 72.50. This is a big mess. All right, Home Depot, my alarm went off. Let's just move stuff 5-minute low. Because we have an open McKesson up alarm just went off, see what I mean? And that Home Depot is just to preserve the gains. All right. This is, all right, McKesson. Not McKesson, MCK, my bad. See, the gap messed me up, see? The gap's too big. This would have been an absolute tier 1 if it gapped just to 260. I would have posted by 5-minute high. The pattern is there, the gap is there, it's detective, relative strength to the market on its own page. That would have been a beauty, but gap's too big for me now. So doesn't mean it won't go higher, but it ain't tier 1 for me. Come on, internet. Met, gap and crap, no interest, ESS. That's a put spread idea. It looks like it's not open yet, though. Dexter, as long as it opens flat, then 5-minute high, put spread yesterday's low, 1 DTE if it exists. All right, I just gotta see how cooked these, I'm sure I'm gonna freak out.